Welcome to the Prison Professors Podcast. We serve people who face challenges with prosecution, sentencing, and prison. My co-founders are Sean Hopwood and Justin Paperny. My name is Michael Santos. We create digital content and our team offers individual consulting services. We also assist agencies that want to improve outcomes. To learn how we can help you, text the word PrisonPro to 44222. Again, text PrisonPro to 44222 and get our free brochure. You can also visit us at prisonprofessors.com or contact Justin at 818-424-2220. Please subscribe to our podcast on iTunes. Send confirmation that you reviewed our podcast and we'll send you a free digital book. Stay tuned for a 20 to 30-minute episode of Prison Professors. Welcome to Prison Professors. Today I have the privilege of introducing you to Anthony Rodona, a lawyer who has no experience with the criminal justice system, but he helps people who come from professional backgrounds that may have lost their license because of one reason or another. Certainly many of the people going into the criminal justice system have licensing issues, and so I thought it would be helpful to listen and learn from Anthony. In fact, I am a client of Anthony's as I'm struggling to get licensing in the healthcare industry. So I wanted to talk with him a little bit about what steps somebody who's got a criminal background can take to begin making an easier case when they want to rebuild their career or rebuild their practice. So Anthony, welcome to our program. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day. Tell us a little bit about what got you motivated to become a lawyer. We'll start from there.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you so much, Mike, for asking me to be on. We're friends on LinkedIn, so I see all your podcasts and all the good things you and your partner are doing. I saw that awesome picture of your partner next to the president. So just really cool, really happy for you, and just congratulations on all your success.
Let me just say in there before you started that I actually have two partners. One of them is Sean Hopwood, who's a former bank robber and now is a policy analyst and a professor of law at Georgetown Law School and does work on Capitol Hill and even works with the White House in trying to reform criminal justice issues. But I have another partner. His name is Justin Paperny, and he's a former stockbroker who lost his Series 7 license because of his criminal background, and actually he would be a prospective client of yours someday. So it is important for me to acknowledge that Anthony offers a really valuable service to anybody who has lost a license. And now I'm going to let you continue to give us the story of what got you motivated to want to become a lawyer, and tell us about your career.
Yeah, so I started going to law school in 2004 and part-time at night. And while I was working at an insurance company, I started looking at different state agencies to work for while I was going through law school. And one of the ones I came upon was the State Bar of California. Obviously, I was pretty interested because I was also currently going to law school. And so I applied for an investigator position. I got pretty lucky and got hired there in 2005. And I worked as an investigator there for about 5 years. Investigating mainly complaints against licensed California attorneys, but every now and then we'll see something a little tricky where it's a licensed attorney outside of California. And then for about a year, maybe a year and a half, I was put on this specialized task force there just to investigate non-attorneys as well, meaning people that are either holding themselves out as an attorney, so that's bad. Like let's say you just have a business card printed out and says John or Jane Smith, Esquire. So you're holding yourself out as an attorney if you're not licensed by doing that. But more importantly, we were looking at people who were not licensed and were actually practicing law. So that was another big issue. But I left there in 2010. I loved it. It's a great place. And I did a small little stint at the Department of Insurance as a detective investigating felony insurance fraud. And then while I was there, I realized pretty quickly I wasn't going to be very happy there, even though the people are very great. They were awesome there. But it just wasn't for me. So I decided to open up my own firm. And I did that in late 2011, early 2012. And so I've been on my own since that time, 2012, had my own firm. It's pretty much me. I have some, small help answering phones and things like that, but I try to do everything myself, keep pretty hands-on with my clients. And I realized pretty quickly that if I focus on helping professionals, because I had that background of investigating licensed attorneys, I realized pretty quickly that it was going to be a little niche of mine, and I just focused on that pretty much ever since. So I would say, a huge bulk of my practice is dedicated to defending California licensed attorneys when they're getting in trouble at the state bar, they're being investigated, or they're having a trial in state bar court. But I do other handful of licensed professionals as well, like insurance agents and other things who are being investigated by that specific department as well.
So if somebody first of all, what is the name of your law firm, Anthony?
So it's Law Offices of Anthony Radonia, it's mainly, like I was telling you, it's mainly ethics and professional responsibility and licensing defense.
Do you assist people then that are only lawyers or other professionals that may need licensing representation as they try to get their licenses back?
Well, trying to get their license is also something I try to help people with as well. Another big focus on my practice is moral character applicants who are looking to get their lawyer license in California. So I get a lot of phone calls from law students who are either going through law school or have either finished law school and already passed the bar. But, there's usually 3 big steps on becoming a licensed attorney in California. One is obviously finishing your law degree, getting that JD. Another is passing the bar. But some people think that's everything, and it's not. There's a whole nother step called the moral character application process. It's filling out a pretty lengthy application. They do a pretty lengthy background check on you. They check if you've ever been arrested. They'll ask some very pointed questions about have you paid your taxes? Have you gone through bankruptcy? That kind of stuff. Any civil judgments. So they sort of try to see if, in their eyes, if you're worthy of getting that license. So it's another big process, and every professional has to go through something like this. But I've been helping a lot of law students recently getting through that process.
So my question, though, was if it's not law, what if it's somebody like an insurance agent, a nurse, a securities broker, a real estate agent? A lot of those people also have some challenges with getting their licenses. And would you have any interest in working with people that need that type of representation, somebody that can help them overcome hurdles?
Yes, definitely. A lot of times I do get calls from this because obviously a lot of my marketing and advertising is focused on licensed defense. So I get calls from a bunch of different kinds of professionals. Sometimes it's not a good fit for me. Obviously my main focus is attorneys and people trying to gain that attorney license in California. But it's pretty much the same thing. It's all administrative law. Just the one little hiccup is that the state bar has its own court system. So I try to really stay in that state bar court system with licensed attorneys. And the weird thing is every other licensed professional has to deal with the Office of Administrative Hearings. So if an attorney is getting investigated, they'll be investigated by the state bar, particularly the Office of Chief Trial Counsel, which is the investigative arm of the State Bar of California. And then if they actually get charges filed on them, they'll go through the State Bar court system, which is all housed in the State Bar court. But every other professional will usually be investigated by their own state agency. For instance, if I'm an insurance agent, I'm going to be investigated by the Department of Insurance, either their civilian side or their criminal detective side, depending on what I did. And then I'll go through an administrative hearing in the Office of Administrative Hearings, which every other professional will as well. So I'm more than happy to look at that kind of stuff. It just sometimes it's not a good fit, and I'm more than happy to recommend them to some good colleagues and friends of mine as well.
What steps should a person take if they want to make the best possible presentation? What types of things have you found to be effective for somebody who wants to make a persuasive case or make it easier for you to succeed in these hurdles?
So it's a good question because specifically these moral character applicants who are trying to get their license to be an attorney in California, after they fill out their application, if the moral character committee has issues with them, they'll ask for the applicant to attend an informal hearing. And it's recorded. and there's a few people there, some moral character committee members, and they're asking pointed questions. And a big thing for me is to help prepare these applicants show up to that hearing. I'm allowed to go as an attorney and their attorney, but I'm not allowed to speak. So it's really interesting that they're the ones on the hot seat. They have to look presentable. They have to answer questions. They have to not be so emotional and just stick to the script sometimes. But a lot of preparation goes into going into that hearing. But sometimes I can't do much because I can't go back in time and make these people do the things that I wish they could have. And I think that's sort of what your question's asking is, what can these people do to get ready to pass this committee hearing or to look good when they're going to get their license in the Office of Administrative Hearings? So a lot of times, if they've done something that the committee is sort of scratching their head at, maybe they've been arrested for something, the committee wants to see a change in their life, and a pretty dramatic change. So let's say you've had 3 or 4 DUIs about 10, 15 years ago, and that's something you're going to put on your application when applying to get your license. The committee's going to want to know about it, first of all, and if you don't put it down, they're probably going to find out about it, and then you're going to get in, it's going to be a very tough road for you to get that license if you're lying on your moral character application. But when you're showing up to that committee hearing, you better show that you really handled your probation well after you pled guilty in criminal court, that you completed all your restitution if you had to pay people and restitution, that you completed all your hours, your community hours, but also that you did something a little extra. Sometimes it can be donating some time to maybe places that have people that are dealing with alcoholism. So they look for that extra step on, let's see if this person is really wants this license. So they can do a lot of things that can prepare them like that. And another thing too is sometimes people who've dealt with multiple DUIs, it's not for me to say because I'm not a doctor, but some of these people have problems with alcohol, not necessarily just that they got arrested, but problems with alcoholism and drinking too much. So sometimes the committee wants to see those people go to AA meetings or any sort of group setting where they can actually deal with their issues with other people that have gone through similar issues.
Could you give us some case studies of where individuals had some particular challenges and what specific steps they took to overcome those challenges and get the license that they wanted to receive?
Yeah, so I mean, I've had a bunch of similar cases like this in the last few years. It goes in cycles sometimes depending on when the bar is being taken and when the committee set it up their hearings, because they only do it a few times a year. So I'll get calls sometimes more often than not. But usually, I guess a recent case I've had where this person was arrested for a couple DUIs, and they actually had a possession of an illegal firearm charge as well, where they pled guilty. Something like that, I really had to talk to them and prepare them on what kind of questions the committee's going to ask. And we felt at the time that they weren't necessarily ready to sit in front of a committee hearing because there wasn't a lot of not only time that hasn't passed between their guilty plea and the committee hearing, but also there wasn't really anything else they've done since. So sometimes counseling a client is telling them, look, go back, do some extra things that not only is going to better you as a person, but will also prepare you and make you look good in front of this committee. So this particular person has been dedicating a lot of pro bono hours to a few different places that people are dealing with alcoholism. They went to their own AA meetings. This person in particular actually went and saw a doctor to talk through their problems, a psychologist. So it was something that I think every person's different. Sometimes they do a lot that prepares them better than others, but other times they haven't done much, and I have to recommend some things for them to do in preparation for the hearing.
Yeah, it's kind of like somebody who's getting ready to go to their 20-year reunion, and on the week before they decide to try and lose 30 pounds. You can't just fit it all in that last week. You've got to start preparing for success way beforehand. And I would encourage anybody who's listening to this podcast to do that takeaway from what Anthony is giving. Don't wait until the last minute and go and try to make a persuasive case, but try sowing seeds as early as you possibly can, thinking about the challenges that other people are going to have if you've made some decisions in the past that make you a questionable candidate for success. Anthony, when you are working with me right now, we're doing some work in preparation for a hearing before the Department of Health and Human Services, and I'll be going before that committee, I think in about just about a month from now. What should I be looking out for with regard to their response to me? I was convicted of a serious drug crime. I served 26 years in federal prison. What kind of challenges do you expect that I am going to face?
Well, we're sort of lucky with you because you're different. I mean, you have good documentation on what you've done over the past, 20, 30 years. I know, and reading about your story, reading a book on you, just learning more about you, I know that you kept a lot of journals, daily journals, in fact, documenting what you're doing to improve yourself as a person. You've written books, you've done so many podcasts and interviews. So the good thing with you is we have a great timeline on what you've done, to not only what you went through and what you did to get in trouble, but also what you've done since and how you've changed and the people you've motivated and inspired. So that sometimes is the perfect client. I have a lot of documentation where I can show the committee or I can show this particular administrative judge on, hey, here's Michael, here's what he did. Yes, he's done wrong, but he's here to admit he's done wrong. Here's documentation showing how remorseful he is, because here's the thousands of hours he's put into doing A, B, and C and inspired others who've gone through similar situations. So with you, it's like you're the perfect client for that kind of stuff. But a lot of times, there's not a lot I can find in their past. And so I have to sort of try to get that out of them and say, look, you're mentoring kids in college. That's something we should talk about. Or you dedicate time to your kids' sporting events on weekends and you're a coach, or all that stuff matters, So sometimes they don't think they're doing things right. But as the more you talk to them, you find out that they're doing a lot of good things.
Anytime we have to overcome a challenge, we have to think about mitigation. We have to think about how we can present ourselves in ways that are different from the opposition, from what the opposition is trying to project. But even an attorney who is skilled as Anthony and who is a depth and breadth of experience that can help individuals, if the individual doesn't do the work himself, that individual is going to be on weaker ground. So I am very grateful to have Anthony's representation, but the truth is, it's right. I have been working on this path for more than 30 years, and if you have challenges to face in the future, I urge you to start thinking about it right now. Hire a skilled attorney. I would highly recommend Anthony Rodoni of the law offices of Anthony Rodona, and talk with him about your challenges, see what steps he can take, and if you guys are a good fit to work together. And as he said, if he is not a good fit, he'll recommend somebody who is. Anthony, have you had many opportunities where people have come to you and you've had to say, I can't work with you, I need to find somebody else? And if you have, can you let us know why you weren't a good fit?
Well, I don't think I've really had situations like that. I mean, sometimes, like I was saying, it's easier for me to put together a packet that I think is going to, obviously or ultimately turn out successful and they can get their license. But other times, I think that packet's sort of thin. So sometimes what we'll do is just start preparing to add to that packet, like, suggesting to go to, there's some things that the State Bar offers which are great. There's something called the Lawyer Assistance Program, which you don't even have to be a licensed attorney, but they offer like group settings, like they're sort of AA meetings. There's a lot of good things that an attorney can do to prepare themselves, or an unlicensed person can do to prepare themselves to get their license. And a lot of bar associations do those things too. There's something I'm involved with the Orange County Bar Association. It's called Amicus Allo. It's Latin. I forget the exact translation, but I know it means friend or support, something along those lines. And so even the Orange County Bar Association is trying to tackle this problem that attorneys have of stress, anxiety, depression, alcoholism, drugs. So a lot of people are doing a lot of things to try to combat this, because it's a big deal in any profession, but particularly with attorneys.
Well, we want to thank you for taking the time to educate our audience about steps that they can take if they want to sow seeds for the type of favorable outcome that they are looking to find. But also, I would say that this, although Anthony spoke specifically about the legal profession, he gave us takeaways that will apply to anybody who has had challenging backgrounds. There's always a step that you can take to begin sowing seeds. We try to feature as many of those as we can on our podcast. And I just want to thank you, Anthony, for taking the time to speak with us and give us some hope today. We've come to the end of this episode. Do you have any final words of wisdom that you might want to share with our audience, many of whom are going through struggle right now?
Well, I can just tell you that, being on both sides, with the State Bar of California and now as a defense attorney, I think I'm really privileged to see both sides of it, where you're sort of doing that one-minded sort of work on investigating and trying to gather all the facts. But on this side, I can really see the human side of people. Everyone has their own problems. No one's perfect. Sometimes people sit in front of me and they're telling me what a bad person they are, and it's just not true. There's a lot of good in everyone, and everyone's going through some sort of struggle. It's just, what are you going to do after that struggle? What are you going to do after that arrest and charge? And how are you going to change your life? And that's really the most important part. But yeah, just if anyone's interested, they can always call me and go to my website at statebardefenseattorney.com. And like I said, too, check out the Orange County Bar Association if you're in Orange County. Also, there's a Discipline Defense Council that I'm a part of. I'm the first vice president of it. It's called the Association of Discipline Defense Council. And you can find myself and a bunch of my colleagues that do what I do and defend not only licensed attorneys, but other licensed professionals in California.
So I will be providing links to statebardefenseattorney.com and Anthony Radona's law office on our website, and I would encourage you to check him out if you need an attorney to represent you for any type of licensing matter, whether it's ethics or even if you've got a criminal background and you're looking to do something like I am doing, which is getting a license to do business in the healthcare sector. Reach out to Anthony. I have found him to be incredibly responsive and competent, and I give him an excellent rating, and I also consider him a friend since we've been working together. So thank you so much for spending our time, Anthony, and we'll be back tomorrow with another inspiring guest. But if you're looking for information on how we can help you, please text the word Prison Pro to 44222 or visit us at prisonprofessors.com. I am Michael with prisonprofessors.com, and on behalf of my two partners, Sean Hopwood and Justin Paperny, we welcome you to our program. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.